I'm Chris LaChava with RE/MAX Heritage Professionals, and I have helped, over the years, I've helped a lot of people relocate to Florida, and in particular Central Florida and the Winter Haven area. And these are some of the things that people were glad to know or wish they knew in moving to Winter Haven. So I want to talk a little bit about the pros and cons of living in Winter Haven. The top pro for most people is our chain of lakes. As I've mentioned in some other videos, the city of Winter Haven is 33 square miles, and in those 33 square miles there are 50 lakes, and 24 of those lakes are interconnected by a series of canals so that you can go from lake to lake to lake. So if you're looking for a waterfront lifestyle, then the chain of lakes is a definite opportunity for you. A lot of people think about Florida and think about the beaches, and the beaches are great, and you have the Gulf Coast beaches and you have the Atlantic Coast beaches, and they're different. But with living on the coast comes some pretty significant drawbacks. You are more prone to hurricane damage, not from the wind. We can get the wind here in Central Florida, but from storm surge. And actually storm surge does more damage to property than wind does. And so if you're living on the coast, you always have to worry about that storm that creates storm surge and can create some significant flooding and damage to your property. Living on a lake in Winter Haven, you don't have to worry about storm surge as much. With that risk of hurricanes and storm surge comes the need for flood insurance and higher homeowners insurance. So there can be a real advantage to living on waterfront, a lake waterfront in Central Florida than waterfront on the coast. Now, again, is living on the lake the same as living on the beach? No, it's not. And so if you're really looking for the beach lifestyle, there's some great towns and cities on both coasts that you can look at. But if you just want water, and lakes are going to be good for you, Winter Haven is an ideal location for that. The second pro that a lot of people are happy about is affordability. You can still find a very nice home for $280,000 to $325,000 here in Winter Haven. That same home is probably $500,000 in Tampa or Orlando. So as you look at the surrounding cities, in particular Tampa and Orlando, significant affordability. Our property taxes are also significantly lower, so there's savings there. And as I mentioned before, homeowners insurance is cheaper than it would be in either coast, and generally speaking, cheaper than it would be in the city as well. And so you sort of have the triple whammy there of advantages, affordability advantages, by living in some place like Winter Haven, Florida. The third pro is construction and growth. Just 2 years ago, Polk County was named the #1 county in the entire country where people were moving to. So more than any other place in the country, Polk County was where people are moving to. We have lots of new home construction. Some people think that's a bad thing, but it does indicate growth. And when you have new homes being built, that means you have new shopping, new entertainment, new options for things to do in the area. I was at a presentation a couple weeks ago, and there's a lot of mid to high paying jobs coming to our area in the next 2 years, around 2,000 or so jobs. And with that's going to come more housing. We have several new Publix going up. We have 2 Targets coming to the Winter Haven area. Just as some examples. So there is a lot of construction, there's lots of growth. With that also will come an increase in property values. The best time to buy property is when? It's now, because it's going to increase in value as all that growth comes, as all that new shopping opportunities come, property values are going to increase. So now is the time to get in and get in on that. The fourth pro is the community feel. Winter Haven is still a small town. It's a population of about 50,000. You still have a small town feel. We still have rec sports that are community based. I'm a member of the Winter Haven Soccer Club Board of Directors, and we are a community soccer club. We focus on providing youth sports opportunities, soccer, to youth of all ages, from 4 to 19, and we even have some adult leagues actually. But there's the same for soccer, or for baseball, softball, so on. Things center around the high school and its homecoming activity. The streets shut down for parades. There's the Havendale Christmas Parade. There's First Friday Winter Haven. There's just lots of great farmers markets, lots of great opportunities, small town feel. You still get to know your neighbors. Lots of great mom and pop shops and restaurants in our downtown corridor. So just a great small town feel. It is not big city living, it is small town living. And then finally, location. Winter Haven is located halfway between Orlando and Tampa. So if you do desire to go to a big shopping mall, or to some fancy restaurants, or craving the downtown scene of a big city, neither are very far away, and you can choose. Orlando and Tampa have very different feels for them. And so Tampa is a nice kind of coastal city, whereas Orlando is much more of a center of the state, theme parks and all of that. We are also located not far from either coast. So if one weekend you want to go to the Gulf Coast beaches and the next weekend you want to go to the Atlantic Coast beaches, you can do so. They're about the same distance apart. And then we're not far from the theme parks either. We have our own theme park in Legoland, Florida, but Disney is less than an hour away, Universal is less than an hour away, so the big theme parks are close by as well. So kind of the best of all worlds with our location here in Winter Haven. Now I want to talk a little bit about some of the cons. So the first con is the heat and humidity. And honestly, it's not the heat so much. In the summer, we'll get into the 90s, but very rarely will we get into the hundreds in terms of pure temperature. We're not like Arizona or Texas. But the humidity is horrendous. And so if you haven't been here in July and August and September, you walk outside and you immediately feel like you need to have a shower because it is so sticky and wet and humid. And so we in Florida have learned we don't do as much outside in the middle of the heat of the day. Do things early in the morning. If you're going to play around the golf, you get up early, you go out early in the morning, you're done by noon, and then you're inside in the AC outside of the heat and humidity for the rest of the day. And we've learned to kind of deal with that. It's not too unlike in the north, where during the winter and the blizzard, you're staying inside, avoiding the extreme cold temperatures. So, but the heat and humidity is real, and it takes some getting used to. I don't know that you ever completely acclimate to it. I would not go out and mow my lawn at 2 o'clock in the afternoon in August. It's just too hot and humid for that. So we learn to do our gardening, yard work, etc. early in the morning or early in the evening. So just something that you have to be aware of. The second con is this is not a city. It is not a big city. If you're looking for a real walkable nightlife, nightclubs, all that kind of stuff, that's not what Winter Haven has to offer. Like I said, it's a small town, and so the opportunities to do that downtown nightlife thing just aren't here. It is much more of a small town community feel. Another con is the job market. Again, it's not a big city. So depending on what industry you're in, we may or may not have the job here in Winter Haven for you. You may have to commute to Lakeland, Orlando, or even Tampa. My wife works in higher education. She works at the University of South Florida. She commutes to Tampa every day. It's not ideal, but it's just what she's used to and what she does. But we have the benefit of having more house with more land for less money by living in Winter Haven than if we had to buy something in Tampa. So the commute is doable, and but that's just something to be aware of. Now, I said earlier, the job market is getting better. There are about 2,000 mid to high paying jobs coming to the area. And so that will help things if it's in the right industry for you. The other thing that can be a con is the growth. So it's a pro, but it also means there's more traffic and congestion. Our roads were not meant, originally weren't built to handle the amount of new people that we have living in the area. And so there can be some challenges with that. Now, I want to caveat though, a traffic jam in Winter Haven is nothing like a traffic jam in Los Angeles or New York or Chicago or Boston or any other big city. The residents here complain about it because they remember when there wasn't ever any traffic issues. And during rush hour, there can be some bottlenecks here and there at different places in town. But it is nothing like what you would see in a big city. But it is something to be aware of that could create a challenge here in Winter Haven. Finally, insurance costs. Florida is at the hotbed of high insurance rates, homeowners insurance rates. Again, on the coast, in the big cities, your interest rates are going to be higher than in the center of the state. But nevertheless, our insurance rates are still pretty high. Hurricanes are a way of life. We have to deal with hurricanes. Last year, fortunately, we didn't have one, but that's the exception, not the rule. So while homeowners insurance has been something the government has worked on some, and I think they've made some improvements in the last year or two, we've brought more insurance companies into the state to increase competition. It is still volatile, and insurance rates can still be somewhat high, and a shock depending on where in the country you're coming from. So that is another con of living in Winter Haven. So, who is Winter Haven for? If you're looking for a small town feel, waterfront living, a relaxed lifestyle, then Winter Haven is for you. If you have questions about Winter Haven or Polk County in general, I hope you'll reach out. I love to answer your questions about the area. See if it's a good fit for you. Happy to answer any questions. As always, if you or someone you know is looking to buy or sell in Central Florida, please reach out to me. Remember, you can't miss with Chris. Have a great day, everybody.